Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Space Monkey Mafia here, and today sort of felt like a spooky Thursday, so it's gonna be a spooky Thursday with tales from our short scary stories. It's a pretty cool subreddit. The background is my tank. That is my favorite tank. It doesn't look the best, but that's totally fine. It's got my favorite fish in it, and yes, I do play favorites. I've just had her the longest. It's almost been 5 years at this point. The real big common goldfish in there. The first one is the first one I read since I just found the subreddit a little while ago. I was just looking through little posts from people who'd posted on No Sleep that I really liked. The first one's called Red Eyes, just kinda to give you guys a sort of feel for how the subreddit is. I first saw one when I was 9. I was sitting in the car waiting for my parents to leave the mall so we could go home. It was hovering above the road, a ghostly gray. It had the most horrific eyes I've ever seen. Blood red, soul-piercing eyes. It flew off as my parents were coming back to the car. On the way home, we struck a woman who had walked out in front of the road. We were told she died on the way to the hospital. I saw the creature again when I was 16. Only, this time, there were more than one. I was walking to school and there were 6 of them, resting in a tree by the entrance to the building. Nobody else seemed to notice them, as their red eyes pierced into me. Later that day, a madman broke into the school armed with a handgun. 6 people were shot dead, and many more were injured. I can see them again now. More than one, more than 6. Thousands. I can see them filling the skies as I stare out of my window. My phone is going wild with messages. The radio just cut out. They're beginning to descend. And again, this is the first one I found because I was just looking through different people's little stories they wrote, and this person has a lot of really good ones, so shout out to Sterbai, Sterbai, I'm probably saying that wrong, but they've got a lot of stories I really like, so maybe check them out. I'm really into world building, so all of these are really, really interesting to me. People really put a lot of time and effort into building different scenarios, and I really appreciate that. It's really interesting to see. 4 steps. I lift my foot, then fear overcomes me and I put it back down without moving. 4 steps. That's all it will take to reach my kitchen cupboard, and I'll be able to last out a few more weeks before starving to death. My stomach rumbles and cramps in a tight ball of pain. I close my eyes and take a step. 1. I wait for a couple of seconds. When my world doesn't end with the grinding of rocks and crunch of soil, I relax. Just 3 more steps. Nobody really knows what happened. One day, people started disappearing. Sometimes they were alone, but just as often they vanished in a crowded place, right before everyone's eyes. Witnesses said that it looked like they'd fallen down a hole, but when they examined where the victim had been standing, there was nothing, just a strange pattern on the ground. I forced myself to raise a leg and take another step. 2. As more people vanished, the patterns were investigated. People dug with shovels and found nothing. The ground seemed soft and crumbly, as if it had been recently disturbed, but other than that there were no signs of the victims. It was only when they got the machines involved, dug deeper, that they found them. It wasn't pretty. Flesh doesn't hold up well when it's dragged across rocks, sand, compacted dirt, concrete, and whatever else was in the ground. That, added to the tons of dirt that somehow reassembled itself above the victims, made the remains almost unrecognizable. Panic spread, and people kept vanishing into the ground. The disappearances sped up, almost as if the grisly discovery had somehow triggered an increase in whatever was happening. Then, somebody figured it out. Stand still. You risk getting dragged down with every step you take. The message spread like wildfire, and everyone stopped dead where they were. I stepped forwards. 3. There were ways around it. If you managed to get inside and go upstairs, you were safe. Cars and bicycles were safe. A life at sea seemed like an ideal solution, if you could make it that far. But then things changed. Buildings began to sink, the oceans grew shallow, the ground rose up around cars, trapping them in place. As people began to starve, they were forced to leave safety and risk being swallowed by the hungry earth. It wasn't much of a choice. I knew it was just prolonging the inevitable, but the pain in my belly wouldn't let me give up. 1 more step. The food is so close I can almost smell it. I lift my foot and take the final step towards the cupboard. 4. You're going to turn soon, Stephen. He patronized me, every day with that same sentence. The words replayed in my head like a broken record. I can't stop it though, right? I can't turn if I don't settle. That's why I always keep moving, but no matter what, he always seems to find me. I will never be like the rest of you monsters. Get out of my sight. I'm terrified. I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like any of those terrible things. You can't escape it, Stephen. No matter how far you run, how well you hide, how loud you scream, you will turn, and it will be soon. No, this can't be happening. It can't be. I run for it. I run as fast as my legs could carry me. I ran and ran until my chest ached, my feet screamed, and my legs burned. I sit and rest my tired body. I've escaped once again. I refuse to be like them. I won't let it happen. I can't let it happen. I try to close my heavy eyelids, but the thought of that thing coming back to haunt me kept me awake. I'm too tired to hide myself, but too anxious to sleep. I lie awake in an uneventful silence until eventually I give in to my body's dire need for rest. I flutter my eyes open and yawn. I fell asleep, and I must get going again. I need to try and find a safe, permanent place of resting that he can't get to. I move my arms. No response. I try to move my legs. No response. It was then that I realized I was surrounded by complete and utter darkness. In a panic, I begin hyperventilating, desperately trying to move my non-responsive limbs. I begin screaming until my lungs run dry. Is this death? What's happening to me? I cry. In the broken silence, I can hear the voice that I've come to dread. You're transforming. Everything you know will change. My heart skipped a beat. Prepare to be blind, paralyzed, and defenseless for 28 days. It all starts now. He paused. You're gonna be one heck of a butterfly, Steven. So a lot of these have some really interesting twists. Some of them are predictable, but they do it in such a way that's not quite predictable. Or they'll do the predictable twist and then another twist on top of it. Once you read a lot of these, I kind of get used to the twist, but not all of them have predictable twists, because I did not see that coming. This one hits real close to home. Hard truth. Do you want to know a secret? You can't tell anyone. Even if they cry. Even if they will die. Are you sure? Okay. Are you ready? I don't have a soul. No, I'm not a demon. Demons aren't real. And no, I'm not an angel. Angels don't exist either. It's just me. I don't have a soul. I'm a husk, a box made out of meat. Nothing but meat. It's nothing to worry about. Hey, do you want to know another secret? This one's a doozy. See, you don't have a soul either. No one does. We're all just husks of meat. Everyone from children to adults to the elderly are all intricate meals neatly packaged into recognizable shapes. And death is really, really, really hungry. An anniversary to remember. Deep down, I knew she was cheating on me. All the signs were there. She had started staying late at the office, arrived home at odd hours, and had a new obsession with her appearance. My suspicions were confirmed when I looked through her phone while she was asleep. She was seeing someone behind my back. Sean, the friend from work who she never shut up about. They'd been trading messages back and forth for months now. They had just made plans to see each other tomorrow, on our anniversary. I wanted nothing more than to throw the phone against the wall and confront her. Instead, I took a deep breath, quietly placed the phone back where I found it, and slipped out of the apartment. Outside, I was able to think more clearly. I wanted to blame her, but I couldn't. It wasn't her fault, not really. It was Sean's. He'd started this. I got in my car and replayed their last few exchanges in my head. He was working late at the office. I pulled out of my spot and started driving. I knew the way to her office by heart, and it only took me a few minutes to reach it. There was a light blazing up at the top floor and a sporty-looking hybrid in the parking lot. I pulled in across from it, made sure I had a clear view of the entrance, and waited. Eventually, the light went off, and Sean sauntered out of the building. I just wanted to talk to him. Honest. But then I saw him in that expensive suit with his fancy car, and I knew I could never compete with him. She would never choose someone like me over him. Confronting him wouldn't change anything. No, my solution had to be more permanent. I peeled out of my space and slammed down the accelerator. Sean barely had time to register what was happening before he was airborne. He tumbled over the car and landed hard behind it. I glanced in the rearview mirror and watched him try and fail to stand up. I shifted into reverse and hit the gas. There was a satisfying thump as my car rolled over him. Once I was certain he wasn't getting back up, I drove out of the parking lot and back to her apartment. I was tired, but I just had to stop and check in on her before I went to bed. Gosh, she looked so beautiful, lying there asleep. And now she was all mine. I can't wait for tomorrow. It will be 1 whole year since I first laid eyes on her. Tomorrow will be the day I finally work up the courage to introduce myself and tell her how much she means to me. So again, a twist probably none of you guys really expected. I really like the subreddit. It's a lot of fun stories here. The tank isn't dark today because it's not like a spooky Sunday. We're just going to do normal lights during the week if I decide to do some little spooky ones. So that about wraps it up for today. Again, this is Space Monkey Mafia. And if you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that little fun stuff. I really hope you guys did like it. And if you did, I'll meet you back here tomorrow. Bye.